Welcome to another episode of The Evolving Mind. I'm Dr. Daniel Sadigh, your host for this hour, and looking forward to speaking with you about important subjects of life from childhood to adulthood and how we are responsible to manage our lives accordingly. So for those of you who are parents or looking forward to being parents, I want to remind you today that parenting children is really important. As children, you remember how your parents were, in what areas they were strong and in what areas they didn't really do what you had hoped that they were doing. As a result of those earlier connections with our parents, we develop different kinds of understanding about our surroundings, our relationships, our behaviors, our decision makings. A lot is at stake through parenting, and I'm hoping that by watching this program, you can hopefully gain some more insight into the importance of parenting and what is functional and what's not. So let's just jump into it with discussing the essence of parenting, which should be based upon security. A good parenting style is one that creates a more safe environment, less turbulence, more consistency, and more understanding, more peace, more love, more fun, and a lot of good stuff. However, there are more negative kind of attention to kids because of our insecurities. If we would like to generalize this idea of security, regretfully, a good over 80% of the majority of people suffer from some degrees of insecurities, and these insecurities are contaminating our relationships with our children. In order to avoid those kinds of contaminations, at least we can figure out what criteria we need to look into, and there are 4 areas that I would like to discuss with you today. Number one kind of parenting is authoritarian. That means that parents serve as controllers, dictators, people whose ideas or opinions are godly, and they have to be adhered by the children, and if not, they'll be punished, there'll be consequences. And you know, these type of parents, they are always looking at the child as an invalid or as somebody who they need to really pay all of their attention to and control everything they do. So imagine if you're a child in this kind of an environment, you lose power. You're not feeling that you're capable of doing anything. And because of that, you will end up, just fulfilling your parents' wishes, just being who they want you to be. And again, when you are not being yourself, in the future in your relationships, you'll be either serving someone else or you'll be angry about your functions and what you need to do. So the children of these households, often enough, they are not feeling well. They're just upset with their lives. They don't have a good degree of self-confidence because from childhood, their self-confidence has been shattered and they didn't exist. It was just everything that existed was this parenting or parent that was running the show. These kind of children, they often are embarrassed and uncomfortable in situations. And these kind of parents generally are the ones that they're not negotiating with their children over stuff. They don't let them be a part of the decision in their own lives, and it's one way or the highway. Let's understand that these parents generally have parents like this themselves, and this is generationally traveling through families. And in certain cultures, those kind of backgrounds are creating more of a tight environment for control and being a stubborn caregiver. If you are that kind of a parent, or somebody like that, that is something that you would like to understand and just adhere to, that this type of parenting just creates more disastrous outcomes than anything else. The second one that is a degree less yet more effective is authoritative. That means that we are structured. We are not a dictator. However, we have a frame of work that we hope our children are functioning within this frame of understanding, desire, not generally expectation, but fulfillment. Because if we expect from our children something, the expectation may be overwhelming for our children. But if we would like them to feel fulfilled with what they do, that is empowering them. When they are feeling fulfilled, that means they are understanding their capabilities and according to their capabilities. And even with a little bit of a challenge, push, encouragement that as parents we're giving them, they're more adaptable to changes. So these type of parents are more flexible. They're not rigid like the first group. They are allowing more information to be coming and going. So their expectation goes into two areas mostly. They expect their kids to be studious, to learn, not in a harsh way, but to keep a frame of academical development, and also fun. These type of parents would like to create a fun and amusing environment for their kids, because in that environment, the learning and playfulness, they come together to create a part of themselves in adulthood that it would be a happier inner child living, a good life with the sense of the adult. These type of children often become self-regulated. That means that they don't need something external, somebody else, drugs or alcohol or anything else to become a part of their life to bring them to more of a regulation or a feeling of more at ease. So these type of children, they function much better in life, and they have more confidence, and they have more easy relationships to prosper and have a good life. The third group that we can discuss are the parents who are very permissive. What does that mean? That means that there's some parents who become very friendly with their kids, which is not bad. I mean, we would like to be our children's friends. However, we need to understand how much of this is boundary or lack of it. And now we go back to the concept of boundaries, and that's something that we often, probably in every program that we have, we discuss. Boundaries are where I finish and where others start. So if a family is enmeshed and the kids are the same level and we all have the same understanding of things, it's confusing because, as an adult, as a provider, as somebody who has years of experience, you cannot just come to the level of your child and just understand the world from their perspective, which is necessary. However, at the same time, you need to have both. You need to allow them to understand the ramifications of what they do, like the authoritative parents. When you are just being permissive, that means that you're letting them get away with anything. You're not really holding them accountable for the things that they're not accepting responsibility, or the areas that they forget, what is a priority. Giving them that kind of a priority make them more responsible. It's not that we just think of them as children, and because they're children, it's okay they do whatever they do. We need to understand they're children, and yes, they can get away with a lot of things. However, there are areas that they cannot get away with. Being at the same level of your kids doesn't allow you to have that kind of a authority or perspective that the children will respect and will understand. The problem with these parents is that maybe they don't have that themselves. Maybe they don't have a good structure. Maybe they have lived a life without an assertive frame of work. In the authoritative, we're talking about an assertive personality, which means that I know where I am, I know what my boundaries are, even with my children, how I function and how they function. They're independent of each other, yet they could be negotiated. But in the authoritative or the permissive one, there is not much of a negotiation. In the authoritative, you had the up to down. I tell you, you do. This is what I'm saying. This is how I want it, and you gotta just listen to me. And in the permissive one, it's up to down. Okay, whatever you want to do, it's not important. Yes, I can get it for you. I agree. So you really lose any base. So not from up down, not from down up. Something in the middle which is the authoritative, it's something that it would work. The last one that I would like to, bring to your attention is neglectful parents. And I would sincerely say that this is the worst kind of parenting. The children who live with parents who are neglectful, they're not feeling important enough. They're not feeling that they matter. They're not feeling that they're lovable. They're not acceptable. So with this kind of behavior from parents who are just going away without considering the well-being of their children, they have their own issues with each other or with family members, and months goes towards dealing with their own personal stuff rather than spending some time with their kids or their desires. These kind of a disconnection, when the child feels that there is nobody there for me, nobody to supervise me, and they don't want me, this is creating an abandonment issue. And we have talked in our different programs about abandonment. I would like to emphasize again, any child who feels abandoned by the neglectful parents will end up really difficult having any relationship, meaningful life form, and they suffer through life, and they need a lot of self-soothing until they regain their well-being and they become somebody who could be acceptant of themselves or being in a relationship. In order to avoid neglecting, please, as parents, understand that your life requires balance. You cannot spend all of your life in just working or attending to family. Even some families that have another child with some issues, let's say you have a child who's a drug addict, and then or has some physical dysfunction. By attending to this other child's needs and all of the requirements that they create, your other child will feel neglected. So the wise choice is that although it's very difficult to do all of this, yet your other child deserves attention, deserves kindness, deserves being seen, talked to. Do not forget about that, especially if you have circumstances that you don't believe that your time allows you to take care of your kids. For you, it's even more important to realize that there is nothing more important than having a healthy child than anything else that you do, because you're responsible for the future of the world. By what you do and how you're parenting your children, you're creating a world that would be different in being more violent and restless, or a future that is more peaceful, collaborative, and loving. We are the creators of the future, and our parenting is the essence of that future that we're creating. I hope you take this to heart and reevaluate your style of parenting. I want to remind you for the last time, authoritative means that we have certain discipline, we are loving, yet at the same time we're holding a frame. For example, if your child does something bad, you're not going to punish them, you're not going to ignore them, you're bringing it up to them, and you're saying that, hey, sweetheart, I know that you did this, and I want you to understand that what you have done, if you stole something or if you took somebody's rights away, I want you to understand that this creates problems for another person, for you in the future, for law, and I want you to realize that behavior like this is not going to be acceptable. I'm going to take away one day of your weekend not to go out as a result of that, but I still love you and I want you to work on this, and once I see that you're not doing this, I can also be more relaxed and give you something that you wanted for a long time. So there is a reward system, there is a way of encouraging the person, the child, not to be stuck with what they did as a bad behavior and then understand that they're bad, because when they feel that they're bad, when they see themselves as bad, guess what's going to happen? In the future, they're the bad people around us. I hope this is helpful to you. Wishing you all the best until our next meeting.